In our generation, we are watching a political and cultural clash happening between Christianity and Islam. And as believers and followers of Yeshua, how should we respond to these things? They're not easy. These are delicate topics, but these are the things that we're going to talk about today. Hi, my name is Cody Archer, and I'm glad that you're joining me today for Revive Live. Thank you for joining this conversation. I have back with me Bassem Adranly.
Yes.
Bassem, thank you so much for being back with me again.
Thank you.
You have been one of my most popular guests of the last year, and I'm thankful that you've made time to be with me again today.
Thank you.
And really, you're, in a sense, an expert on this subject that we're going to talk about. You're an Arab Christian believer living here in Jerusalem area. And you also, part of your gifting, I would say, is being able to dig into the source of things, look deeply, not so much debate, that's not the right word, but you're a person who thinks very intellectually, can pull things apart, look at them from different angles, and you're a real gift to the body. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today. Also, just a little bit more about you. You're a father, you have 2 daughters, a beautiful wife, you're a pastor of a congregation in Jerusalem, an Arabic-speaking congregation. And at Revive Israel, we love you and your family, your congregation, are just so happy to be partnering along with you.
Thank you.
And friends, I just want to also remind you that we have a lot of great content that is meant to strengthen you and support you. And I want to encourage you to check out our content on YouTube. We have over 170 different videos that we've posted just over the last couple of years of teachings, of many things that will bless you, encouragements. And so if you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel, I want to encourage you, hop over to YouTube after this episode and subscribe, follow us on YouTube. There'll be a lot of great content that will bless you. And I want to encourage you also, as we're talking about Islam and Christianity and these clashes that's going on in our generation, would you go ahead and like and share this broadcast? I know that it's going to bless many people today. Well, Bassem, again, thank you for being here. We have this whole topic of Islam and Christianity clashing isn't a new thing. You know, if we look back over the centuries since Islam was birthed, there's been periods where waves of attacks and violence have happened between followers of Jesus, or I'm not sure what to call them, some of them taking up swords and killing people. I'm not sure I want to classify them as true born-again believers. But there has been waves of violence and clashes politically, socially, culturally. Let's just start with where we're at today. This is most relevant to us. What do you see going on in this area of political and cultural clashes?
Well, yeah, there is this idea that the clash is happening only in the West, but this is a wrong idea. The clashes are happening in all the Islamic world. So you have clashes between different trends of Islam. So just keep in mind that it's not only a problem in Europe, but in Europe specifically, there is big gaps between the Judeo-Christian culture and values and the Islamic culture. And that clash exists in many levels. One of them is a political level. You know, Islam is in most of, the traditional theologians, you cannot separate the religion and the culture. It's part of one coin.
Okay.
Some other theologians call for separation between the religion and the rule or the government, but that's a more weak trend in Islam. So because there is no separation, there is a different understanding in values, major differences between the Judeo-Christian, let's say the biblical understanding of law and politics and the Islamic understanding. The Bible is very much based on 2 very important principles. First, God values very highly his law. God will never break his law. It's a very, very fundamental principle in the Bible. So that's why in the Bible you don't see double standards. God doesn't have special law for the prophet and a different law for the common people.
Yes.
You know, in Islam, there is special law for the prophet, for Muhammad, and a different law for the others, like in marriage. Also, like the companions of Muhammad, they have double portion of their credit in paradise and than the other common people. So you have these double standards. And so the idea of the rule of law and to have law for everyone is not there in Islam. So that's why the cross is irrelevant. So God can do whatever he wants. He can tell you, okay, your sins are forgiven.
Yeah.
But he will break his law.
Wow.
Doesn't matter. So the issue of following a law, it's not consistent in Islam for everyone in the state.
Wow.
The Amir al-Mu'mineen doesn't follow the law. It doesn't apply for him. If it doesn't apply to Muhammad and it doesn't apply to his companion, then it doesn't apply to the leader.
Wow.
Then it's normal for the leader to be above the law. On the other hand, in the Bible, God held leaders accountable. When Ahab killed a person, or his wife Isabel killed a person and took his field, God went to him and said, Elijah told him, you will die the same way. David, when he committed adultery with Bathsheba, God sent the prophet. He did not send him a verse, tell him, okay, we allow you to marry her.
That's true. He was rebuked.
It's special law. You know, he's the king, or we don't believe he's a prophet, no, in that sense of prophets. But I mean, he's a king, that man of God. So God sent him, you know,
So
Nathan.
Yeah, so let me ask to clarify. You're saying that in Islam, true Islam, religion and state come together, and there is different levels of priority maybe given to a leader or a common person. So then today in a political world of Islam, you could be a political leader and have different expectations for you than the common person, and meaning you could actually get away with certain things being a Islamic leader over a nation that the common man might not get away with. Wow.
So that's why in Judeo-Christian culture, you can criticize the prophet. He's a person. God himself rebukes him when he does wrong. Of course, we do believe that he's perfect when it comes to transferring the inspired word of God. He's flawless, because that depends on God. We share the Muslims in that thinking. But also in sins, from all the prophets, from Moses to Jesus, like when Jesus came, none of them really did what the Muslims understand as kaba'ir, which means idolatry or adultery, or even marrying more than one person, by the way. The prophets. And that's when we see polygamy, we see it with the kings. And so in our mindset, there is differentiation between the king like David and the prophets. Even the priests, none of them married more than one wife. Of course, before the law, that's a different story. So for us, God holding people accountable, that's a foundation. Even in the law of Moses, the 70 elders that were, giving the mishpat, the judgment, they were inspired by God. They were led by God. God was asking God for guidance, so you don't have any percentage of mistakes. And also, if they did wrong, God will punish them. So it's the whole issue of accountability is very much fundamental in the Bible, and that's the core of democracy. The West could not apply this fantastic idea of Aristotle from the 4th century BC that the law will rule over everyone.
Yes.
Unless, you know, it took the West 2,200 years, like 200 years ago, to apply that. But it's very foundational in the Bible.
Yes.
And the Islamic side, it doesn't exist. There is not at all any principle or example of holding a leader accountable.
Wow.
So that's big, major clash.
Yes.
People say that Israel is the only democratic country in the Middle East. And they say, no, they have many injustices and stuff. But they don't understand the issue of the foundation of democracy, which is in Israel.
Yes.
You can have the law, as we say now with Netanyahu, can hold even the prime minister and the Nasi, the president, accountable.
Yeah.
That's, you will,
Yes.
it's hard to find this in the Islamic culture because it's not founded in the religion.
Yes. Wow. Interesting. So now let's shift a little bit. We've seen over the last number of years millions of Muslims escaping out of the Middle East, immigrating into Europe and to other countries. Where do you see this going with all these millions of Muslims integrating into different societies in the West in particular?
Well, let's people look this as negative or a curse. I think of this as positive. The West needs to accept these, if they want to accept them, as citizens. And they have to love them and give them all the rights. But in the same time, they need to address the core issues of the problem in order to rehabilitate them, to re-educate them, and to manage to let them, live in harmony with the societies, with its values and stuff. They cannot ignore issues. You have to understand the root of the problems, which is politically one of it is what we mentioned. Also, they have to understand that there is a major understanding differences in the way they think. Many Westerners speak with Muslims as if they are Europeans, and they assume they understood what they are saying. They deal with them the same way. You have to understand that if you want to help someone, you cannot ignore where he's at and how to help him step by step. You know, a leader needs to lead people step by step.
Yeah.
So I do see two trends. One is trying to fight this trend, looking at these people as a threat, which make them feel that they are rejected. And it's very bad. And it's against our culture, as Jesus taught us to love everyone.
Yeah.
On the other side, try to ignore it totally, as if it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Rape, the politicians don't like to show that they are failing in anything. So they try to hide statistics
Yes.
of the ratio of rape, of violence
and crime.
not because they want to protect the Muslims, because they don't want to show their nation that they are failing in their decision, or they didn't take the right decision, or something like that. I think they need to expose the challenges and address the challenges.
Yeah. So then what do we get? We get into that place of the clash of, Islamophobia. You know, let's say that there's a certain country in Europe, somewhere in the world, where Muslims are actually breaking the law, they're committing crimes, and it seems like, if anyone raises their voice against that, they get blamed immediately. This is Islamophobia, and you're speaking ill of our Prophet Muhammad and different things like that. Or even somebody does a cartoon that maybe puts Muhammad in a bad light. The whole Muslim world wants to attack. How do we handle this? And especially as believers, where anytime you speak out about Islam, there's already that level of fear that this is going to probably bring some backlash or get me in trouble.
Well, I don't believe, I believe that the term Islamophobia is a fraud term. Because phobia is irrational fear. When you get from 9/11 until today in the West, in the world, around 36,000 cases of terror attacks.
Wow. Wow.
And after that, you still are not afraid. I think you need mental help. So it's the opposite, you know. On the other hand, back to the same subject, if you have Muslims in Europe and they are intolerant of any criticism to Islam or the Prophet Muhammad and stuff like that, maybe you should go slowly, slowly. You cannot expect them at once to accept the joke or to accept your criticism. Maybe you should walk slowly, slowly. And I believe that the issues need to be addressed on a much deeper level. The Europeans need to reevaluate what is taught at schools, what to allow, what not to allow, because they have to do justice also to their nations and to their values. If the Quran teaches you that you have to, if you see someone drinking beer, for example, you have to tell him, don't drink. Al-amr bil-ma'ruf wal-nahy al-munkar, it says. And European values says the opposite. You cannot do that. So they have to address the subject. And you have to educate the people that you cannot do that. You know. So the other issue that it's really problematic, that Islam clashes with cultures, any culture, not the Western culture. Let's go far from the Western culture. You look at Muslims in China. You go to a mosque, you see the Arabic calligraphy of verses. They pray in Arabic. They have to read the Quran in Arabic, which you're not allowed to dress even like Arabs. It's as though, I want to be optimistic here, they have little room in Islam for their culture.
That they're in.
I don't want to say no room, but let's say Islam has a little space for your culture. You have to be uprooted from your culture. You cannot be Chinese fully and Muslim. The moment you become a Muslim, the uprooting process begins. And then you can end up hating Britain or Germany
or the culture that you were born and raised in.
You start to adopt different culture. And that's very problematic. You know, it's very problematic. The West has to address that issue and they have to fight it. Because in a way there is religious freedom, but with the religion there is a movement that is fighting you politically as well. It's not that they planned it like that. That's the religion. You cannot separate culture and religion. It's not like they are scheming as against Europe. It just goes naturally. And the West has to address these issues, especially in the messages, religious messages of the mosques, schools, education at schools. They have to address it. They cannot ignore it. And they have to promote also, you know, separation. There are theologians, Muslim theologians, that call for separation. You know, they say that Muhammad, when he was dying, he did not appoint a second person after him. Therefore, they conclude that the caliphate ended and the secular Islamic State began right after his death. Some theologians think that. So they have to go to universities. I know Saudi Arabia invested in many universities with money, and they teach the Wahhabi Islam, which is promoting totally the opposite of what I'm telling you right now. So they cannot do that. They have to really close all these systems and promote a different religious
Yeah.
teachings of Islam. They have to work on many levels. They cannot just talk about it. They cannot speak about it negatively or positively. It's not about positive or negative. It's about trying to treat a problem.
Yeah, speaking the truth.
Speaking the truth,
Yeah,
and try
calling.
to address
Yeah.
the foundation of the problem.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, Bassem, we're almost out of time. I really want to have you back again because I know there's a lot more in your heart we can talk about. I have other questions burning on my heart that I want to ask you. So I'm going to have you back. We're going to continue to talk about this clash between Islam and Christianity in the near future. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome.
And friends, I want to thank you also for joining us today on Revive Live. I hope you look forward to joining us again when I have Bassem back again. Go ahead and like and share this broadcast. And I want to bless you from here in the Judean hills just outside of Jerusalem. May you have an awesome day and week. And I'll see you next week on Revive Live.